Courtroom Drama Real-Life.
How old are you?
7.
Nehemiah Griego, a 15-year-old boy who committed a mass shooting that claimed the lives of 5 members of his own family. On the night of January 19th, 2013, Nehemiah shot and killed his parents and 3 younger siblings with 2 different weapons. First, he used a .22 rifle to shoot his mother, then his younger brother, and finally, his 2 younger sisters, who were just crying innocently. But the horror didn't end there. Nehemiah waited for his father to return home and shot him multiple times with an AR-15 type semi-automatic rifle. After the terrible act, he even drove to church with 2 rifles in the van and told his girlfriend that his family died in an accident. Luckily, the pastor and a retired homicide detective sensed something was wrong and called 911. Later, Nehemiah confessed to having suicidal and homicidal thoughts, revealing that he planned to murder more people and engage in a gun battle with the police. However, the real shocker came when Nehemiah unleashed his madness in the courtroom. As a minor at the time of the crime, Nehemiah was initially proposed to be sentenced in a family court. However, that decision was appealed, and he was ultimately sentenced as an adult. In October 2015, Nehemiah pleaded guilty to 2 counts of second-degree murder and 3 counts of child abuse resulting in death. However, despite his sister crying, Nehemiah had something to let off his mind.
I am sorry for taking our parents and our sins. I wish I could take it back, but reality is that we can't.
In August 2019, Nehemiah was sentenced to 3 concurrent life sentences plus 7 years, with a minimum of 30 years before being eligible for parole. Nehemiah wasn't the only kid to be given a life sentence. There's the case of Sierra Halseth and Aaron Guerrero, 2 teenagers involved in a horrific crime that shocked the nation. In 2021, Sierra and Aaron admitted to the killing of Sierra's father, 45-year-old Daniel Halseth, in Las Vegas. During the investigation, shocking details about the gruesome crime they committed emerged. The teenagers had brutally stabbed Daniel Halseth more than 70 times and attempted to dismember his body with a chainsaw and circular saw before setting it on fire. The case came to light when Daniel Halseth's burned body was found in his garage on April 9th, 2021. Sierra and Aaron were detained in Salt Lake City 4 days later, and their lives were forever changed. While the crimes committed by Sierra and Aaron were abhorrent, their conduct after the crime will leave you speechless. A disturbing video that circulated showed both teens joking about the murder.
I don't know what to say.
Welcome back to our YouTube channel. Day 3 after murdering somebody.
Wow! Don't put that on the camera.
It was worth it.
And we had a lot today.
During the court proceedings, Sierra Halseth read a letter to the judge revealing several instances of sexual abuse and harassment she allegedly endured from her father. She described him as a drug addict and a pedophile. While her defense attorney couldn't corroborate all of her claims, he acknowledged that there had to be a reason behind such a terrible act. On the other hand, Aaron Guerrero expressed remorse for the killing of Daniel Halseth. He apologized to the victim's family, acknowledging that the manner in which he passed was absolutely horrifying.
I ask for forgiveness as I get sentenced today, and I hope it brings you a little peace.
On October 20th, 2022, District Judge Tiara Jones sentenced Sierra and Guerrero to life in prison with the possibility of parole after 22 years. They were also ordered to pay $5,000 in restitution.
Count 8, you have 555 days credit for time served. That is a total aggregate sentence of life in the Nevada Department of Corrections with the possibility of parole after 22 years of good service. You have 555 days credit for time served. That is a total aggregate sentence of life in the Nevada Department of Corrections with the possibility of parole after 22 years of good service.
Family members of the victim expressed their anger at Sierra during the hearing, stating that they wished she had received the death penalty.
Where did the evil come that was bred into a soul that murders their own father?
You're in a tough spot because your son is the victim and the killer is your granddaughter. Can you talk about that?
She's not my granddaughter.
However shocking Sierra and Guerrero's reaction to their sentence was, how does it compare to this reaction by Philip Chisholm, a 14-year-old who is facing charges for murder in Massachusetts. In October 2013, Philip Chisholm murdered his 24-year-old Danvers High School teacher, Colleen Ritzer. Chisholm followed his teacher into a school bathroom and brutally used a box cutter to take her life. Shockingly, much of the horrifying attack was caught on surveillance footage. After the murder, he rolled her lifeless body out of the school in a recycling bin, intending to bury her in the woods. He later returned covered in blood, adding to the callousness of the crime. Chisholm used Miss Ritzer's credit card to buy a ticket to the cinema that night. During the sentencing in Salem Superior Court, Miss Ritzer's parents, siblings, and colleagues shared heart-wrenching statements about their beloved daughter and colleague. In court, Miss Ritzer's father, Tom, expressed his devastation at not being able to protect his daughter and fix what had happened. He had even been at her school that day, but left without knowing the tragedy that awaited her.
Peggy, Laura, and I waited in those chairs for hours. A few people came and went. At some point in the night, I heard a helicopter in the distance. It was not moving. It was just staying in one place. I knew that was not good. Then someone came out of one of the back rooms, and I overheard them say, "crime scene." I prayed constantly that night. First I prayed they find Colleen and she'd be safe. But after I heard the helicopter and the words "crime scene," my prayers changed to "please, don't let it be Colleen."
Miss Ritzer's mother, Peggy, described Chisholm in stronger terms.
October 21st, her last memory, chocolate cream pie. He is pure evil, and evil can never be rehabilitated.
If you thought Chisholm had reached the depths of depravity with his crimes, wait until you see his shocking behavior during the proceedings. During the court case, Chisholm showed no emotion, appearing detached from the gravity of his actions. Ritzer's siblings also reserved choice words for Chisholm.
Put this animal behind bars to the maximum possible sentence, and I beg of you, Your Honor, do not give this coward the opportunity to shatter another family's lives.
Here today in the hope that justice for Colleen will be served.
Defense lawyers did not deny that Chisholm killed his teacher, but argued that he was suffering from severe mental illness. Despite this assertion, the horrifying act could not be excused.
That process is central to the maintenance of our social compact and part of the core of the concept of ordered liberty. This court will impose the mandatory life sentence for the murder of Colleen Ritzer and set a parole eligibility date of 25 years.
Eventually, Chisholm received a life sentence with eligibility for parole in 25 years. However, while some may attribute Chisholm's reactions to mental illness, it pales in comparison to the unfathomable reaction of Jacob Morgan, a 17-year-old autistic who was charged with murder and arson. In March 2015, Morgan started a fire that tragically claimed the life of his 14-month-old half-brother, Joshua Hill. Despite the horrifying nature of Morgan's offenses, his actions during sentencing managed to shock everyone present. Morgan tearfully pleaded guilty to starting the fire that took Joshua's life, but his parents staunchly defended his innocence, insisting that he loved his younger brother and would never harm him intentionally. According to Morgan's mother, Julie Hill Dover, he was asleep when the fire broke out, and they believe he was prevented from rescuing Joshua by neighbors who held him back.
He would never hurt his brother and with the disabilities.
The case presented conflicting narratives, with investigators claiming that Morgan exhibited malice by not calling for help or attempting to save Joshua during the fire. They also mentioned Morgan's fascination with fire, pointing to previous incidents involving flames. However, Morgan's parents contended that their son's confession came under duress after a lengthy, unrecorded interrogation. The court sentenced him to 15 years in prison, with charges of involuntary manslaughter, unlawful conduct towards a child, and third-degree arson. Morgan broke down in tears when he heard the verdict.
I believe the state has, in fact, met their burden, so therefore I am going to find that there is probable cause to charge the individual with the bound over for General Sessions Court for both charges.
In an unusual legal move, Morgan used an Alford plea, accepting punishment for the arson offense without admitting guilt. The original murder charge was dropped as part of the plea deal. However, this wasn't the only time a convict freaked out during their sentencing. Take, for example, the case of 18-year-old Matthew Borges from Lawrence, Massachusetts, who is facing charges of first-degree murder of his high school classmate, 16-year-old Lee Manuel Viloria Paulino. In November 2016, Viloria Paulino's decapitated body and head were found along a riverbank by Omar Medina, a dog walker. Prosecutors revealed that Borges committed the heinous act out of jealousy, as the victim had spent time with a girl Borges liked. Borges was 15 when he committed the murder. As a juvenile at the time of the slaying, Massachusetts law adds parole eligibility to a life sentence for first-degree murder convictions. During sentencing, Viloria Paulino's mother, Katiuska Paulino, tearfully testified about her beloved son. She expressed that Borges should never have the opportunity to harm another person.
With the assassination of Lee Manuel, we were also assassinated because Lee was everything for this family.
Essex District Attorney Jonathan Blodgett expressed the community's shock and devastation over the vicious murder, stating that it tore at their sense of decency and humanity. The judge handed down the maximum allowable sentence, and Borges was sentenced to life in prison, making Borges eligible for parole in 30 years. However, while Borges' behavior raised eyebrows, it's nothing compared to the explosive actions of Jeremiah King during his trial. King murdered an Albuquerque man in his driveway after a night of mayhem. The incident occurred in 2015 when King, then only 16, and 5 of his friends were engaged in unlawful activities, breaking into cars and homes. Stephen Gorecki, the beloved Albuquerque bartender, confronted them in his garage, and tragically, King admitted to pulling the trigger, taking Gorecki's life. While the magnitude of King's crime is daunting, their courtroom behavior will leave you in disbelief. During the sentencing, King and his group of friends were seen smiling, with no remorse for what they had done. King's mother addressed the judge, describing her son as a good and respectful kid who made a mistake.
Jeremiah is a good moral character. I realize it might be hard to believe that, given the circumstances, but it's true nevertheless.
However, the prosecutor, Larissa Calloway, highlighted King's history of unruly behavior, including drinking alcohol and using drugs without supervision.
He was able to go out, drink alcohol, use drugs, spend time with his friends without any adult supervision whatsoever.
In court, friends and family of the victim expressed their grief and anger over the senseless act.
Take him and bound him in saran wrap, hang him from his feet, dump him in a vat of pig's blood, and let him drown.
Jeremiah King was sentenced to spend the next 25 years behind bars. The judge gave him the maximum sentence under his plea deal, expressing that King showed no genuine remorse despite his courtroom apology to the victim's family.
I can't do much but say sorry. I could prove it by doing good while I'm in prison.
The other 5 teenagers involved in the night of mayhem pleaded to lesser charges and are awaiting sentencing, not directly related to the killing. Just when you thought you'd seen it all, another convict surpasses King's courtroom display. Enter Tyler Hadley. On July 16, 2011, a horrific tragedy occurred in Port St. Lucie, Florida, when 17-year-old Tyler Hadley murdered his parents, Blake Hadley and Mary Jo Hadley. He brutally attacked them with a hammer while they were at home. Tyler had apparently planned the murders in advance and had even invited friends over for a party at his house that evening, intending to have a big celebration after committing the unimaginable act. After taking ecstasy, Tyler carried out his plan, first attacking his mother while she worked on her computer, and then fatally assaulting his father, who had rushed to her aid. Following the murders, he concealed their bodies in the master bedroom and spent hours cleaning up the evidence. Despite the gruesome act he committed, Tyler went on with the party, using his deceased parents' credit cards to fund it. He confessed the crime to some of his friends during the party, and one friend, Michael Mandel, even discovered the bodies, but didn't report it immediately. Instead, he continued to spend time with Tyler, and even took a selfie with him, before eventually reporting the murders to the authorities.
After he told me, I didn't believe him, because he's been my best friend forever. I would never suspect anything like this. And I was looking around. He told me if I look at enough, I can see signs. I looked on the floor, I could see signs of blood. And that's when I went around back and looked in his parents' bedroom.
Tyler had a troubled history involving drug use, criminal activities, and behavioral issues. His parents tried to help him by seeking inpatient treatment for his drug problems, which Tyler apparently resented, leading to his motive for the murders. As if Tyler's offenses weren't enough, his demeanor in court will leave you dumbfounded. As he was a minor, Tyler couldn't receive the death penalty under Florida law. He was initially sentenced to life imprisonment without parole, but the sentencing was overturned in 2016 due to a newly evolved judicial review mechanism for juvenile murderers. In December 2018, Tyler was resentenced to life in prison with the proper judicial review process in place, despite his apology.
I apologize and make amends for the horrible acts I've done and I committed.
His family members also asked the judge to give him the maximum sentence.
Is for him to get the maximum penalty possible, which I understand is life in prison without parole.
The house where the tragic events took place was later demolished in April 2015. Tyler Hadley is currently serving his life sentence at the Okeechobee Correctional Institution. However, while this reaction could certainly be dismissed as an effect of drugs, the same can't be said for the case of Aiden Fucci, a 16-year-old teenager from Florida that was charged with the first-degree murder of his classmate, Tristan Bailey. The tragic incident occurred in 2021 when Fucci, who was 14 years old at the time, stabbed Tristan over 100 times in the woods of St. Johns County, Florida. However brutal the slaying was, wait till you see how Fucci reacted after the murder.
Having fun in a cop car.
Yep. Tristan.
What's up, guys?
Yep.
Tristan, if you walk out the damn, it's in a cop car, cuz. Tripping, dude.
Tristan Bailey was described as an energetic and happy child, and her untimely death has caused immeasurable pain to her family and friends. The judge recognized that no sentence could truly bring closure to such a tragedy and conveyed his sympathy to the grieving family.
This jar now holds 114 stones, one for each of the 114 stab wounds that my sister had to endure.
Had I slept on that couch that was within earshot of our front door, there's a possibility my little sister could still be alive today.
I recognize that none of these horrific memories will bring Tristan back. It truly just pains me more to have to relive them, to talk about it, to feel those feelings all over again like it happened yesterday.
Eventually, Fucci was sentenced to life in prison. However, he will have the option to appeal his sentence within 30 days, but the judge emphasized the seriousness of the crime and expressed doubts about the potential for rehabilitation. The stabbing had no apparent motive and was not driven by greed, revenge, or any other typical reasons for violent crimes. The judge referred to it as an extraordinary and shocking case in St. Johns County. Fucci stood emotionless as the judge read the sentence and showed no remorse.
I sentence you to life in prison. Because of your age, you are eligible for review of the sentence in 25 years.
However, Fucci wasn't the first teenager to commit atrocious crimes. There's the case of Jasmia Kanisha Whitehead and Tasmia Janisha Whitehead, who were arrested and charged with the murder of Jarmeka Yvonne Nikki Whitehead, their 34-year-old mother. On January 13th, 2010, the twins brutally beat their mother with a vase and stabbed her multiple times in an act worthy of an Oscar. Both girls denied committing the crime.
Because I'm gonna make sure it's my person that did it. It's a little red thingy that sit up on like one of the tables. I didn't see it.
In 2000, Nikki met Robert Head, and they began living together in Conyers along with her twin daughters. The girls were honor roll students in Girl Scouts, but their relationship with their mother was chaotic. They had been raised by their great-grandmother, Della Frazier, but Nikki regained custody of them in 2010 after a court order. This led to conflicts and physical altercations between the twins and their mother, which ultimately resulted in Nikki's tragic death. The medical examiner ruled the killing as a crime of passion, and evidence, including bite marks, pointed to the involvement of the twins. In January 2014, Tasmia pleaded guilty to voluntary manslaughter and other charges, receiving a 30-year prison sentence. 1 month later, Jasmia also pleaded guilty to the same charges and received the same sentence. They're currently serving their sentences at separate prisons in Georgia. However, while Jasmia Kanisha and Tasmia Janisha's behavior were shocking, it's nothing compared to the utter mayhem caused by Seth Stephen Privicki. Born June 2nd, 1980, Privicki was just 18 years old when he committed a heinous act that shocked the nation. On November 29th, 1998, in Muskegon, Michigan, Privicki shot and killed his parents, brother, his brother's girlfriend, and his grandfather. Before the incident, Privicki's life seemed relatively normal. He was a senior at Reiths Puffer High School, described by classmates as quiet and soft-spoken. His parents considered him a good kid. However, beneath the surface, there were troubling signs. Privicki's behavior started to take a dark turn when he was a teenager, engaging in alcohol and drug use. His encounters with the law included stealing beer from a store and shoplifting. In 1997, after an arrest for stealing beer and selling it to minors, a court ordered Privicki to attend counseling and take the antidepressant medication Wellbutrin. Despite these efforts, his behavior did not improve significantly. He admitted to using alcohol, marijuana, LSD, and amphetamines by the age of 16. He even claimed to have sold drugs and been promiscuous throughout high school. On that Thanksgiving weekend in 1998, tensions within the family reached a breaking point. Privicki's father threatened to kick him out of the house, leading to a heated argument. Feeling cornered and enraged, Privicki reached for his father's .22 Ruger handgun and went downstairs with a hidden agenda. He shot his brother in the back of the head while he was watching TV, then ambushed his father and grandfather in the garage, shooting them both in the back of the head. Privicki then went upstairs and shot his mother, followed by the cold-blooded killing of his brother's girlfriend when she arrived at the house, leaving a brutal and shocking crime scene behind. Privicki's actions were fueled by a mixture of anger and despair. After the killings, Privicki called a friend for help in cleaning up the scene and disposing of evidence. However, their attempts to hide the bodies and make it look like a robbery were in vain. Boss's parents discovered the horrific scene and alerted the police. Privicki and his friend attempted to flee, but were eventually captured and arrested. However, the real shocker came when Privicki unleashed his madness in the courtroom. During the trial, Privicki initially claimed his brother was responsible for the murders, but he later confessed the truth. He later pleaded no contest to 5 counts of first-degree murder and 5 counts of felony firearm charges and apologized. In 1999, he was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. However, the tragic story did not end there. In 2010, Privicki was involved in a desperate prison escape attempt at Kinross Correctional Facility in Michigan. Alongside 2 other inmates, he carjacked a correction staff semi-truck and attempted to breach the prison fence. During the chaos, Privicki was shot and killed by a corrections officer. If you thought these reactions were shocking, you'd be amazed at this video of senior citizens reacting to life sentences.
Courtroom Drama Real-Life.